and welcome to the Cybersecurity Happy Hour podcast. I am your host, Christie, and this is episode 38. And the topic for this podcast is remote work as a cybersecurity professional. Now, we are aware that remote work is quite common today, and after the change in the last few years, the remote work was always there, but it increased drastically in the recent years. And although there are many advantages of working remotely, it can have its challenges as well. The typical roles for cyber security professional are, I'm going to name a few. Obviously, I'll start with a pen tester. Pen tester can work in the office and remotely in any location. So also a cybersecurity consultant would possibly doing risk assessment, GRC, information security analyst as well, cybersecurity engineer, an auditor, PCI DSS auditor, also can work remotely. I'm just naming some of the roles that can be carried out using as a professional, a cybersecurity professional. So let's look at some data. It says more than half of, which is 55% of cybersecurity professionals believe that their job is stressful, 55%. Now, according to Data Basics from the poll they carried out, phishing emails have spiked to over 600% since the end of February, as cyber criminals are looking to capitalize on the fear post-COVID pandemic. So these are some of the risks. 68% of the organizations surveyed did not deploy antivirus software for work-related devices. 47% of employees cited distraction as the reason for falling for a phishing scam while working from home. So they work from home, they're quite comfortable, and an email came of some sorts, and they fell for it. 24% of respondents have spent money unexpectedly to resolve a security breach or malware attack following from a working from home shift. So these are some of the risks. And I was just going to mention one final one. 81% of cybersecurity professionals have reported that their job function changed during the pandemic. So after that, then the function changed. So again, the purpose of this is I want you to talk about the risk and the benefits as well of working from home as a cybersecurity professional. So what are the advantages of working remotely? Well, flexibility. So if you're working remotely, it could be from home, it could be from a cafe, wherever you choose to, that's not in the office. It gives you that flexibility to work from any location, regarding obviously the terms of contract. Your work-life balance improves, and it can accommodate other things you want to do regarding your personal needs. One of the key things that is always highlighted as an advantage is that reduces commute, so you don't have to wake up early to get to work by taking a train or driving 2-3 hours to get to work in all conditions. So it just reduces that daily commute, which also reduces stress as well, and it makes it more eco-friendly. So as well as the commute, there are cost savings, i.e. you don't have to purchase formal office wear, which could be a suit, but basically formal office wear. The cost of travel has been eliminated. You don't have to purchase meals, which with the cost of living at the moment, a sandwich could cost about £4 in the UK. If you have a drink, imagine that in a week, it's going up to 30-40 quid. And times a month, then look at how much that is in a month. So your cost is reduced, and you can save over a year, let's say annually, and imagine you could use that money for something else. Other advantages is that you can actually work, as I said, you can work for anywhere, any country. So if let's say you're in the UK, as I am, you can apply for work in the US or other countries really, and not really need to move to that country. So you don't really have a lot of those, I would say those immigration issues. Obviously there are other things you need to meet, other conditions you need to meet. However, taking your family and moving across to another country is kind of eliminated. Now, there's also an advantage of increased productivity. Some argue this, but what this means is that if you're working from home, working remotely, that means you're more productive because you don't have distractions. What I mean distractions is like you have to go make tea and then you go to the coffee point, then you're having the chats with many people, which take away the productivity. Then you have to come back to your desk and then, log in and then get your thoughts together and start again. Minimal interruptions. It depends on the type of office you have. If you have an open plan office that's not actually planned correctly, then you have people stopping at your desk, having a chat. That obviously takes away from you doing work. But if you have a dedicated space, if you can have that, and you can actually work without distractions there. Now, for the employer, what an advantage for an employer is that you can recruit and have that diversity of talent from this huge global pool, I would say. So you have a diverse skill set. I mean, you can get that in one country, but it just opens up the options of recruiting from many countries. Of course, one has to obviously understand the zones and timeline of where people work. But however, it just opens that opportunity for employers. Now, from my own observation, I think, let me just use US for example. In any major city, really, let's say New York, the cost of renting is obviously escalated the last few years, not just in any major city. And the fact that if you can work remotely, doing that work, you can actually move to another city in another state, and obviously your rent will be cheaper. Let me use the UK for example. Let's say London is the capital, and the rent and mortgages in London is quite astronomical. So if you're able to obviously move to another part of the country, let's say northern part of the UK, where possibly the rents and the mortgages are much cheaper, then that's a major advantage. Then obviously your costs will be reduced. The cost of living will be slightly reduced. Will be reduced really, and I think you have a happier employee. I think which is a good result there. If the employees are happy, then they're more productive. And I think I mentioned again, if you have a family, you can schedule. I mean, you can drop your kids to school and start work during your break time. You can rearrange your work life, and I say the key word there is the flexibility there. Now let's look at some of the challenges. I use the word challenges when in regard to cybersecurity. So so you're working from home. You are either using a home router or you have a dedicated office where your employer may have given you a router. And then if you're going to be logging remotely, you must have VPN. So some of the security concerns are your home network, probably the router has not been updated for a while. Your communication devices, again, if you're going to be communicating with your colleagues, must ensure that those tools that you use are quite effective. I mean, you can get good tools as well. I think most Microsoft Teams is a good one that I think I've seen personally that organizations use, and quite streamlined as well. Isolation can be a problem. What I mean is that it depends on your personality. If you're an introvert, probably working by yourself, a lot of people are happy with that. But if you're an extrovert, isolation might be a problem, i.e. there's nobody to speak to, you're just by yourself. Fair enough, you are engaged through meetings, virtual meetings. However, having that human contact around you might not be right for certain personalities. I mentioned the home network, and I want to revisit that again. And the reason why I want to revisit that is when you're in the office, everything is set up, okay, to a high standard. But with a home router, a home network, they may not have the safeguards in place to combat cyber threats. And what I mean by that, for example, with the home router, they receive this router for the ISP, and sometimes the firmware doesn't get updated. the default credentials are still being used. People might not. Yes, so because obviously the home network is also not segregated, is used for everything, including if it's especially in the home, the family will be using it and probably not segregated adequately. Other vulnerabilities could be the Wi-Fi might not be secure, okay, which obviously introduces risk. And if it's not secure, then obviously there's a likelihood of a breach. There are other challenges such as phishing, malware infection, ransomware attacks, and with these sort of attacks, cyber criminals would take advantage of a home network and using that to pivot into your company network with intention of stealing data, really. Now, what can you do to address this? Okay, number one, obviously secure your environment, your work environment. Follow your organization's policies, such as use encryption, MFA, multi-factor authentication, if you are going to access sensitive data and systems. Secondly, yes, we do have that flexibility, which is an advantage of working remotely. However, good time management as well, where you can set a schedule to manage your time and your projects quite effectively, so you can have that work-life balance. If not, you may turn out working longer hours because of poor time management. As cybersecurity professionals, we always have to stay up to date with the latest security trends. So we have to obviously use our time management to conduct research, to do reading, to ensure that we are having our continuous learning on the latest cyber threats. But we want to keep informed by obviously understand what these threats are, especially to our own environments and our clients' environments as well. So what sort of tools, again, I'm going to go over this again to ensure that remote work risks are reduced. VPN, I mentioned VPN, virtual private networks. Okay, want to ensure that your remote workers use VPN company's data or the applications. So what this does, it gives it that extra layer of security and has that separation of accessing your corporate systems remotely from outside the office. And secondly, encryption. Of course, I always mention encryption. Ensure your data is protected, your information is protected at all times by using strong encryption. Now, remote working as well, the employer may give you a laptop to work remotely. If you're going to be working either from home or you're going to go use it in a coffee shop, etc., ensure you have BitLocker, ideally, whatever your company uses. There should be some officer, you're the professional there, and if you recognize, I'm not a professional, cybersecurity professional, you recognize these things are in place. Once you speak up and obviously request these things, whoever's in charge of implementing these tools and processes. So, which must have, again, visibility, understanding what's on our end devices. The operating system must always be patched. There must also be strong identity access management. Okay, I mentioned MFA. So these tools must be in place to have that effective security, because I don't want to focus on, oh yes, we do have reduced costs, we do reduce our commute time, we don't have to pay for lunches with flexibility. All that is well and good, but we have to look at the other side, that there's also risk working from home if our systems are not strongly protected. What else can you do? So ensure you have separate logins. So if you as an employer, you do have remote workers within your organizations, ensure that your employees have a separate credentials for their personal and professional accounts. Encourage good communication between your staff, so that if they are finding it challenging, they can speak up without any consequences or penalties. Encourage the network at home to be secure. Ask questions about the Wi-Fi routers and networks. Provide training on the risks from working from home. One thing I also like to talk about is, again, the also the hybrid culture. After the big P, there was a huge number of professionals, cybersecurity professionals, working from home, remotely, working from home. Now, that's all well and good. However, I think the employers wanted, now they are bringing back the hybrid model, which might be good for extroverts, I believe, or introverts occasionally. So that hybrid model there is, and employers are demanding people to come back to work either fully or in a hybrid model. So what I would say is this: is depending on your contract. So if it states, if you're recruited as a remote worker, then obviously you need to have a word with HR and remind them and say, look, this is what was in my contract. And have an honest discussion, an open discussion with them to obviously remind them of your contract. Now, to summarize what I've just said, that remote work for cybersecurity professionals offer numerous benefits. And I mentioned one, flexibility is the key one, if good time management. However, there are some challenges which comes with working remotely. And also this needs to be addressed. How? By having an effective communication, make sure you have professional development, and organizations should obviously implement policies to address cyber risk. I think also with the combination of this and other controls in place, you would have a fully satisfied remote cybersecurity professional. Now, I hope that this episode has provided you some valuable insights and some practical knowledge that you can apply to your work. If you're thinking about transiting from on-prem professional, cybersecurity professional to remote, it just gives you something to think about as well. And remember, it's not about passive listening, but obviously taking action. So I want to once again thank you for your continued support and listening to the podcast. I'll appreciate your feedback and any questions that you have and suggestions are truly welcome. You can reach out to me by sending an email to podcast@intexit.co.uk, or you can follow us we can find Cybersecurity Happy Hour podcast on all the Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can find us, and you can leave a comment on our website. Stay tuned for any upcoming episodes where we'll dive more into cybersecurity issues. And I'm here really to talk about this cybersecurity thing that we're all in. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and take action. And thank you for listening. Goodbye.